The following is a Podcast One Minnesota production.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
If it's made in Minnesota, who's making it and how?
Yeah, you got that right.
It's the makers of Minnesota, focusing on the products and services uniquely made in Minnesota, and conversations with the makers, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Minnesota about how they conceived of their products and how they brought them to market. With Stephanie Hansen, it's the makers of Minnesota.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Makers of Minnesota. I'm Stephanie Hansen, and we are on episode number 91, and I am here with Ken Goldman. Hello, Ken Goldman.
Hi, how are you, Stephanie?
I am great. You are the inventor, founder of a company called Stunt Puppy.
Truth.
Now, I have a weird story about how I first saw your product.
Uh-oh.
No, it's a good story.
Okay.
So we have a mutual friend. Hi, Kathy Paper. I was diagnosed with cancer and had a double mastectomy and a bunch of lymph nodes removed out of my arm. Well, I'm 7 years cancer free, so probably 8 years
Awesome.
if you were counting on all that. And at the time, I was a runner and I was a marathon runner, and I used to run with my dog, and my dog was kind of it's a husky mix, and so it was a puller. It was always pulling.
Yeah.
And I had a harness for her, but I still pulled. So after the surgery and recovery, I get back out there and I'm back on the running trail, and I'm realizing, wow, this holding of my dog is really different because it's really hurting my arm.
I bet.
And I was having some lymphedema issues and some other things, and Kathy Paper brought me this thing and she said, here, you need one of these.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was your invention. Do you want to describe Stunt Puppy, the original prototype of what you invented?
Yeah. That particular product is called the Stunt Runner, and the concept is hands-free running. So there's a waist belt, goes around your waist, and the attachment to your dog is particularly short, so your dog can't get too far. But that connection, which we call the flexible connector, has some elastic in it. So it's kind of like a bungee.
Yeah.
So what's happening is it makes up for the differences between the strides of you and your dog. So it's essentially this little cushion between you and your dog. It really, like Minneapolis, St. Paul is ground zero for it in terms of you got people running around the lakes. It's crowded. You don't want your dog very far away, but you want some freedom. Yeah, that's really where it
It's
comes
a really fabulous invention. And
I'm so glad that that worked for you.
and that's how
an
I
awesome
came
story.
across it. Yeah.
That's very cool.
And we still use it. I don't run anymore. Now I'm fast walking.
That's fine
But-
too. Yeah, sometimes we have to let people know you can walk with it too.
Yes.
You could, hold a beer in one hand and
And multitask, exactly.
Yeah, phone in the other, whatever you need.
Or hiking even, because
Absolutely.
my dog's older now, the same dog,
Oh,
but
nice.
we need her kind of close just
Yeah.
because she can't hear very well.
Yeah.
So it works really well for that too. So tell me the story about how you started Stunt Puppy, or what's your background? You're obviously a marketer.
I am a marketer. But Stunt Puppy was absolute accident. My dog Bauer, who he passed away a few years ago, but we had him 12 years. We got him when he was 1. He was really trained, and we brought him to the vet, and we didn't do the work. And we brought him to the vet, and the vet is like, that dog should be working. He's a golden retriever. So we're like, okay. And so I just enrolled in this class for therapy dogs. Long story short, we got registered as a therapy team. We were doing a lot of work in hospitals.
Uh-huh.
It started out mostly in like day treatment, chemo areas where, unfortunately, you probably know this, but people are just kind of sitting in chairs, and there's a lot of room and there's nothing to do.
And you sit there for hours.
Yeah, so we would walk around and hang out with those people, and then we got moved to the psych ward. And I was super scared at first, but then it became like the best thing in the world. So essentially, in those units, behavioral health is the right term. it's essentially like a living area, and everybody has their own rooms, but there's this community space where people are just hanging out. So it's a really cool place to bring a dog and interact with people. And we needed a little more space or a little more freedom, and so I created a leash. Well, one, we were using the Stunt Runner, which I created, and then I created another leash, which is called the Roundabout, which essentially it can, when I don't need it, I can wrap it around the dog's neck and connect it to itself. So, but I have it there right at my hand whenever I need it. So I was just making gear for myself. I know how to sew. I actually like to sew, and I really like gear. So
there it goes.
Yeah. And then I have a marketing agency. That's the marketer in me. And we're like, hey, maybe we should build a brand around that. And so that was 11 years ago.
And so did you bootstrap it with all your own money when you made your first prototype? And
yeah, it's all self-funded.
Did you sew it yourself in the beginning?
Yep.
And
yeah. And actually not only the first prototypes, but I sewed the first products in the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then at what point did you have enough sales that you were, excuse me, you'd think I would know how to turn that off. At what point did you have enough sales that you were able to, like, you can't keep manufacturing this at home on nights and weekends?
I don't know. It didn't take too long. Part of it was I had to get out of the basement. Like, I was taking up too much room, and anybody who knows me, there's a little bit of a trail behind me everywhere. It's all organized in my head, but not for anybody else. So I was making a big mess at home. So long story short, then we sent it up to Ely. It was made up there.
Did Wintergreen make it for you?
Actually, some ex-sewers of Wintergreen did, and then so this was like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
and then we kind of kept running into some timing issues because that person also did Will Steger's stuff.
Yep.
So he's like, I got to do mittens for Will, and that was more important than our stuff, which I get it. He's going to the North Pole, doing important things. And so then we moved it to a factory in Maine, and they did wonderful work. It's really hard to find factories and so on. So it was more so then. But then the manager of that factory, who'd been there forever, retired, and then we realized how key she was because we started getting things and they weren't the same. And so about 2.5, 3 years ago, we said, you know what, we're bringing it back. We're going to do it ourselves, and we want to make jobs in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So we essentially started our own factory. Okay,
so you're sewing everything here.
Correct. Yeah.
And I am keen to this idea that there is a need for sewers for products like yours and others, that the Twin Cities has got a huge void of people that know how to sew.
Yeah, and it's kind of a catch-22. It's, you need the sewers, and you need the machines, and you need people to maintain the machines, and like, what do you do first? And do the sewers need to be trained, or do you sew them, or do you train them yourselves? There's some new programs here, like at Dunwoody.
Yeah.
They're training them. And our sewing, to be honest, is a little different. We can train sewers from zero.
Yep.
But we have some other products coming up where that would not be the case. So it's kind of an evolving process.
A friend of mine had been involved with J.W. Hume and started that program with Dunwoody. And I'm glad to hear that it's still going. So you've expanded the call into collars and now some vests. And
we have harnesses, collars, leashes, and when will this podcast be out?
It will be out on June 5th.
Oh, so I'll say this then. So we're doing a joint venture with a company in New Zealand that makes jackets and life jackets. And so our line is really expanding.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And those jackets will be made in the U.S. One jacket, which is merino wool, will be made in New Zealand because that's where the wool's coming from. And the life jackets are made at one of the premier life jacket companies in the world, which that is in China because they make the best life jackets.
I'm
So,
going to ask just a completely ignorant question because I've only ever had labs pretty much or
Yeah.
lab derivatives, and they're just crazy about swimming and swim.
yeah.
What are
Why does a
you
dog need a
creating
life
dog
jacket?
life jackets for?
So it's a super fair question, and I have this great write-up which says exactly why, and I don't have it in front of me. But point number one is dogs are sprinters,
Yep.
not swimmers. So they're not necessarily made to be in the water for long periods of time.
Okay.
So your labs, and like I have Goldens,
Yep.
they're probably the best to have in the water, and that's what they're made for. But I know if I throw a stick way out in like Lake Superior,
Yep.
my dog will go for it whether it should or not.
Right.
So it's kind of a safety in that sense. And then there's a bunch of dogs that can't swim.
Yeah, like the snub-nosed dogs.
Yeah.
And
Or you look at a Doberman or a Vizsla that have like zero body fat. They're not meant to float.
Yep.
So, but I am going to send you a link that gives you like exactly.
it's an interesting, because I believe
Yeah.
that there's a market there.
No, totally. And why should a dog wear a jacket? That's another question. And there are good reasons there. I mean, we cater to more athletic-minded people and dogs. Not that non-athletic people or non-athletic dogs there's no issue. We just have kind of picked our position. But even a dog, like let's say it's been hunting or running and it's wet or cold or it's older, it's like a kind of a great after workout thing to put like a merino wool. I mean, these jackets are nicer than I have. So, and then you have like little dogs that just might need a
That
puffy
shiver.
jacket. Yeah. So, again, having a golden retriever, my golden retriever almost never would need a jacket, but one is 12 and, probably next winter, she'll probably wear one at certain points during the winter.
So you have all of these businesses going on, and maybe it's a benefit to have a marketing company too, but where do you find time to work on your actual business and also have this marketing company?
Well, they're physically right next to each other. I mean, one door next to the other. So that I couldn't do it if that wasn't the case. And it's just kind of this fluid back and forth. It just depends on what's going on in which company. And people, I say, well, how much do you spend on this and how much do you spend on that? And it's different every day. It's just, there's kind of a rhythm to it.
And so for a long time, you just had the leashes, not just, but the leashes and a collar. And now you seem like you're expanding into more gear. Why the renewed interest and expansion?
Well, the harnesses, people had been asking for years for those. And we literally spent 5 years designing a harness. That sounds more impressive than it really is. It was a lot of like, oh no, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. And we didn't want to just go out and copy something. If we were going to do it, it needed to have something different about it. And its hook, so to speak, is that it helps prevent pulling. Where a lot of harnesses can actually encourage pulling.
Right.
And so that was just a long time coming. And then the rest of the line from New Zealand is a company that we've known for 10 years, and we're just very like-minded. And it's kind of one of those, and we've always been friendly. We've designed things for each other, and we just figure, you know what, we're going to be bigger and better when we're bigger together. And it's just kind of, it's 1 + 1 = 3 cheesy statement.
So you're in a weird space here because you're creating unique elements to existing products that make them uniquely yours or uniquely unique to the marketplace. You are appealing to people that like gear. You are appealing to people that are athletic or in the athleisure type area where they're going to spend a little bit more money on their dogs. How do you market these products, and has that been challenging?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, if anybody says it's not challenging, they're lying. Social media is huge.
So that's really launched them in a way that maybe...
Yeah, it's interesting. And having a marketing agency, we actually didn't do a lot of marketing in the beginning, which sounds counterintuitive. Second, we really tried to pick a position and focus on it, which is people who run with dogs. So we've spent a lot of time in that market.
Yep.
And then trying to capitalize on being made in the U.S. and not in a sense where we're like draping ourselves in the flag, but more in a sense, hey, we can be quicker. So you can order that collar and we can customize it and have it to you in 2 days.
Right.
So we have
Speed.
a product called Stunt Puppy ID where the information is actually dye sublimated right into the collar.
Yep.
And you can't do that if you're making your products overseas.
That's great because it doesn't have. I hate the tinkling noise of dog tags.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, where it's clink, clink,
We
clink,
just
clink, clink.
eliminate the noise. Yeah.
Yep. How do you decide how to price your products? Like, do you compare them to other things in a store?
A lot of it is looking at the competition. We're on paper. It should be like, what's our margin? All things like that. But we can't compete that way for the other companies that are producing overseas. Like, our margins are smaller, period.
Yep.
But that also means we focus on trying to sell more direct to consumer and we do sell to retail, and we have 2 distributors too, outside of the country, one in South Korea and one in Japan. So, but there's more flexibility there because they can charge more for the products.
Yep. The dog market is huge, right?
Yep.
And do you anticipate that it's just going to keep growing?
Well, I think yes, I'm sure it'll keep growing. And it's really easy to say, oh, the dog market is X billion dollars, and if we could just get 1/2 of 1%, I know. But if you look at those numbers, so much of that is food and medical and other things. So first of all, you have to get all that away. And then if you look at leashes and collars, which nobody, from what we know, and hopefully somebody would prove me wrong who can hear this, has really separated leashes and collars. So that's a small piece. It's a really small piece.
Right.
And then within that piece, like you said, we're appealing to this athletic or athleisure market. So it's even smaller. So yeah, it's big, but it's not as big as everybody,
Right.
makes out to be. I think we judge more on the dog's status in society. As it moves up, our market grows. So if you look at other countries, I just got back from Korea 2 days ago.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you eat Korean barbecue?
I did. I ate so many things, and some things I didn't know what I was eating. And I'd never met in person with our distributor there, and I needed to see, and we've worked together like 4 years.
Right.
So I needed to see what the market there was, and it's so different. I mean, first of all, dogs are huge there, but it's mostly small dogs.
Yep.
But although there are getting to be more large dogs, but I just needed to understand why she wanted things the way she wanted them, because she was very particular in some details, and just that people don't care about here. Like,
Yeah.
they would never buy a collar without a matching leash. That's not true here.
No.
And almost always use harnesses. Always, always, always. I mean, they're definitely growing here, but not everybody uses a
Yeah,
harness.
that's interesting.
So there's a culture where the dog has risen in society, and there's other, cultures where that's happening. So I feel like that's where the growth is happening.
Yeah.
Because there's dogs all over the world, but a lot of them are just outside.
They're not considered family members.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or they have jobs.
Yep.
Like, hey, your job is to go get the cows at the end of the day and bring them back.
Right. Right.
So,
tell me about, so you're a traditional marketer. So did you have a specialty in the day of, were you a TV guy, radio guy? What was your deal?
so my background out of business school was nonprofit arts administration. So, which led me in, I ran a small nonprofit in San Francisco. It was an art center for children. And I was like a punk. I was super young. But that got my hands like on everything. And then from there, I went to a large musical theater in San Jose, similar to the Ordway here. So, 2,600 seats. And that really gave me a chance to do a lot of radio, print advertising, and print collateral.
Yeah.
And it just measured constantly. It's like butts and seats, period. And then I was working with a lot of agencies. So I'm like, hey, I want to be on that side of the table. And I just happened to go to that side of the table in, mid 90s, and the web just exploded. And I went to an interactive agency in Silicon Valley. So it was a pretty weird, weird time. Yeah. So then I kind of focused in interactive.
So do you understand like websites and how to market products on websites? And is that...
Well, websites 100%. I mean, I've grumpy old man voice. I've been there from the beginning. But selling online is like a whole nother thing. So Stunt Puppy has really taught me more about that than any of our clients, because most of my clients in the past are like giant brands.
Yeah.
And not a lot of e-commerce, although there has been some.
So are you pretty good at search engine optimization and click per lead, lead per click?
On just those two things, we use other people.
Okay.
And I think at our agency, we say that's kind of a black art.
It seems to be, because...
And it's constantly changing.
Yes.
And so we work with people who focus in just that.
And it's really dynamic and moves really fast.
Very much so. So we're doing all the creative, all the messaging, all the strategy. But in terms of literally putting that stuff out, or, buying the media and things like that.
Click, yeah.
Yeah, that's stuff that we don't do, and we employ other agencies.
So let me ask you this question. You have to hire for that. How do you know, like, that they're not just full of crap? Because I think sort of this dark art of search engine optimization seems like there's also a lot of people that have no idea what they're doing, and they're charging you tons of money and the needle's never moving.
You're 100% right.
Okay.
And we've had that happen. We're working with a group now where the needle is moving. It's moving variably depending on the week. And I'm still having quite a bit of faith in them. And the big reason is because of the work up front that they did, and their weekly communication. Like, they're telling me exactly why things are working or why they're not working.
Yeah, so they're managing up and being...
Absolutely. And as long as I see that I know they're putting 100% effort in, and as long as we do that too, I feel like we're getting our best shot.
Yep.
But it's getting harder and harder. And I mean, Facebook... So much of it is around Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah,
it's scary, and it changes every day.
So you are hiring a company that is doing search engine optimization, pay-per-click advertising through Google, probably.
Actually, we're not using Google right now.
Okay, so it's mostly in Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay. And can you, like...
I'm not saying that's right, so don't try this at home. I mean,
it may be right for your product. I mean,
right.
I was in postcard marketing, so direct mail, we had to pay-per-click, and we knew exactly if you clicked on it, how much you were going to convert and how much you were going to spend. And that became a good business model for us. But I mean, by the time we sold the business, we were also spending $65,000 a month.
Right. So some of that is just cash. Wow. Old-timey phone. So
this is just...
That's awesome. So we'll cut that out.
Okay, this is hysterical.
Experience. Has that phone ever rang before?
Well, Ken, in the 91 podcast episodes I've done, I think it rang once, and it actually rang.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is, so my computer rang, and it was a sad phone ringing.
That is super sad phone.
Oh, that is hilarious.
So, what did you just ask?
I was asking
about $65,000 a month.
Yeah, by the time that we sold our company, we were spending $65,000 a month on Google pay-per-click.
Right. So for us, the key is if we can get a customer once, and then they're in our database, it's so valuable for us because our emails.
How do you have a high open rate?
Yeah.
And do you mind if I ask what it is?
You can totally ask. I just don't know it off the top of my head. It's well over 30%.
Okay, which is good because I think isn't the national average 15%, but that takes into account everything. So most people, it's really like 5.
Yeah, and again, our agency does a lot of email marketing.
Okay.
And so I wouldn't put too much stock in those averages because there's so many variables. Is it e-commerce? Is it information? How often is that company sending emails? I mean, think about the emails you get from a company that send them every day.
Can I ask you about more email marketing questions?
Please. Yeah.
I'm sure you're utilizing these resources for Stunt Puppy. So
Yeah.
are we worried that like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or the Instagram messaging that's going to essentially replace email at some point?
Email's still one of the most powerful mediums, and especially in terms of ROI,
Mhm.
period.
Because it's a one-to-one connection with
Yeah,
someone
and
that's
it's
given you permission.
Yeah, and it's super unsexy, and
Yeah, because there's all the filters, and that seems like it's like getting harder and harder to get the emails through.
but if you do it right and you're sending the right email, the right content at the right time, and those are all critical things.
Yep.
It's a great thing. I mean,
love it.
think about how many emails you get in a day that you really want to open. It's probably not that many, but there are some.
Yeah,
Like
and
for
there
you,
are
like
some.
what's an email that you like? You see it and you're like, oh yeah.
Probably my Garnet Hill or Athleta or
How often do you get it?
sometimes too much, and then I'm actually one of those people that will unsubscribe if you send
Yeah.
me too many emails.
Well, and actually, from a marketer's point of view, that's a great thing that you unsubscribe. The worst thing is you don't unsubscribe and you just get the email. That's like, it's like passive. It's horrible because we don't know what's going on.
It's okay.
And that's
I see.
like the worst kind of email to send. Like you're just sending it out there. They're so sick of you, they won't even take the energy to unsubscribe. That's bad.
I don't like when you unsubscribe and then you have to like enter the email address to unsubscribe, but
You
I have
know
like
my
52 email
address.
addresses.
Right.
I can never remember.
That's ridiculous.
And yeah, I'm just trying to stop the madness.
Oh, but wait, are you sure you want to unsubscribe? Like, shoot me now.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah. Or how about when you order something online and then you're getting more Facebook messaging or whatever telling you to buy it? I'm like, I just bought it.
The remarketing.
Yeah.
That works though, I think.
But no, that works. But what if you bought it and you're still getting the remarketing?
Yeah.
And there's a way to turn that off if they know what they're doing.
Yes.
They should. And so it's like just salt in the wound. I just gave you $50 and I still have to see your ad again.
Of all this stuff. Yeah.
Anyway.
It's a little weird too. Like I've noticed, I noticed this with Facebook in particular where, you know, maybe I'm on my computer shopping for, new running shoes. And then like, I noticed that Facebook is sending me like things from, you might like this page, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I feel like you have a window into my computer that, because I wasn't on Facebook looking for this stuff, but now Facebook knows that I'm looking at running shoes. It's very creepy.
Yeah.
But I know it's the way it's going. And
I mean, it's creepy you know what? It's creepy if it's used for bad.
And we know it was. So
Yeah.
now.
But it's not creepy if, and this sounds kind of like BS, but if you can send me a more targeted ad, then that's good for me, right?
Yeah,
but it's
because
a fine line. And
I
if
wish they'd send me more tasty videos. I wish that.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, we'll talk about that offline.
How do you feel about videos in general? Do you think it's important for like the listeners of this podcast, people that are making stuff in Minnesota,
You have to have videos, period.
and if they're
It's the way-
$1,000
it's the
to
way the
produce
algorithm-
them, should you do that, or should you just do them on your iPhone and punt?
Well, do them as good as you can do them, but the algorithm says you have to have videos. Sorry.
How do you feel about videos on Instagram?
It's not, from what I know, and again, this could all change in 15 minutes.
We won't quote you.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's constantly changing. It's not as important on Instagram from everything we know.
The stories, they like video in the stories, but putting video as your Instagram post so far, it's kind of flat.
Yeah, we're not seeing as good results.
Me neither.
And Instagram is this little safe spot, I think, for me personally, where I can just I'm just going to look at Instagram and not look at Facebook and, just look at nice pictures.
And
it's all given us, I'm getting off track now, but I feel like it's given us an opportunity to reset our personal audience. Because I feel like Facebook, we're all like, hey, yeah, I'll be your friend. Sure. And so my Facebook is just whatever.
trash.
Yeah, but my
Yep.
Instagram, I feel like I got a chance to start over. I'm just going to look at things from you. I mean, I don't care who follows me. I don't have
That's really
mine closed
interesting.
down. But yeah, I keep telling my wife, I'm like, you got to stop looking at Facebook, says the guy who depends on Facebook.
And I know a lot of people that are looking at it. So for Stunt Puppy, are you obsessed with growing your Instagram following?
No.
Okay.
I mean, obviously I want it to grow, but it is not, because honestly, if I just cared about the number, we could make the number bigger.
Yeah, because you would just buy followers.
Yeah, or just do stuff to make it bigger.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in who's following us.
Which leads me to, how do you feel about social media influencers? So the Dogs of Instagram is based out of the Twin Cities, as an example.
Right.
Have a gajillion followers.
Right.
Maybe would it make sense for you to hire them to use your product and give you some feedback on the product? And are you looking at those types of relationships as beneficial?
So our take on influencers right now is we're looking for a more genuine relationship. We're being very idealistic about it right now. So right now, the people we're giving product to, almost all, not all, but are what we call sponsored athletes or dogs. We definitely have gear testers, but they're not paid. The only paid scenario we did like that was there's a running, it's like a company that utilizes Twitter called BibChat.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a bunch of runners who tweet to each other.
Yep.
And so they go out and test products and talk about amongst each other's.
Cool.
And so we basically buy time.
Yep.
And we'll send stuff out for people to test. And actually that's been really cool. And so it's we're buying placement, but all the other products are out there. No one's getting money for that. They're getting free product. But usually we're contacting them. They're not.
You just look at their Instagram, and is there a sweet spot? I sometimes wonder, oh yeah, 50,000 followers, but maybe I really want to be with the person that has 4,000 followers, that they're really organically have followed them.
Yeah, there's not a set number. I mean, we like for it to be over 5,000, but it just depends. We have this weird little niche right now where, so I'm a drummer and
because you have all this time.
Yeah, exactly. So I follow a lot of drummers, and there's a lot of people have dogs, but there's a lot of drummers who have Instagram accounts, and a lot of them show their dogs. So we have a few dogs of famous drummers that we're sponsoring, and that's cool.
Anyone you can share?
Carter McLean, who was just on, he just did last week with Seth Meyers. He was the drummer in the band, but he's the house drummer for Lion King on Broadway.
Okay.
So his dog has his own Instagram account. But if you look at, I think it's Carter Mac Drums. I should know that off the top of my head, but Carter McLean Drums.
That's funny.
You'll find his Instagram. And so yeah, there's a few connections like that. Just niche-y.
Can I ask a couple questions about the local dog pet product community?
Yeah.
The reason I'm interviewing you is because actually someone sent me an email and said, hey, I'd like to support more local makers in the pet space, and can you help me find local products that are made in Minnesota, or people that are making cool products for pets here? You're in a kind of different league than some of these other people, just because maybe you've been at it longer or your company has grown faster. How much do you think your company is valued at right now? Do you have any idea?
It's worth what somebody would pay for it.
Well, and isn't that always the case?
Yeah. So no, it's interesting because with other companies I've worked with, that's always been a number talked about. but right now there's like no, like, there's just so many things we want to do before we even think about that. Like,
so if you got to a number, let's say, what would that number be where you'd be like, wow, I've arrived and I feel like maybe I could sell it once I get to this number?
Wow. Over $10 million.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
I was going to say 15, but.
Yeah.
And that's a good local company. I mean, that's a successful business.
Yeah, absolutely. And and to a fault, we're probably don't think about those things on purpose because we enjoy the whole thing.
Yeah,
the making.
That's okay too.
And this last 3 years with bringing, the factory, and when I factory sounds really big because it's a really small space, but just the idea of making jobs here is really important to us. I mean, not to sound cheesy, but it just feels really good.
It was the part of the business that I think I ended up liking the most, that I didn't anticipate, but it also bared the most pressure. When you're laying in bed at night and thinking about the college kid that has worked for you for 10 years, who's now had one baby and just bought a house, and the pressure of keeping all these people employed.
Yeah.
It gets a little stressful.
Yeah. Well, and especially like, it's interesting you say that we have people that have been with us like 10 years and at the agency longer than 10 years. You're like, oh my God, that's like a big piece of their life.
Yeah.
And you feel a responsibility.
And they gave it to you, and you want to honor what they gave you.
100%.
And their work. Okay, so do you go to like dog trade shows and dog pet shows and do pop-up pets and?
No, sometimes yes.
Depending on the show.
We don't do a ton of pet shows. We've done them. We'll do outdoor shows, or
more
shows that
dog.
are,
Yep.
But we're going to be doing more pop-up stuff. Like we have an Airstream base camp that's getting all branded, and so our New Zealand friends who are in the States now are going to be driving around with their adorable accents and popping up.
Cute.
Yeah.
I love it.
We're excited about that.
What made you pick an Airstream? Just because of the iconic and it's so cool? And maybe you can have fun in it?
Yeah, and it's a new one. It's not. At first, we were going to retrofit an old one, and it just looked like a money pit.
Yeah, it can be.
So we wanted. It's small, new. It's solar. It's
cool.
It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, and that fits definitely within the brand of the lifestyle
Absolutely.
of what you're trying to cultivate.
And we were thinking of something that would attract just our customers.
Yeah.
They would. Yeah.
Are there other local pet products that you like?
Yeah, Mendota is here, and I think they've been here way longer than us, from what I understand. And I feel like they're really popular with the hunting crew. There's been some others. There's a cool brand. I haven't heard of them in a little while, but called Rugged Wrist, that is kind of making things. I think it's mostly collars, but they have kind of a nautical theme. I think they're out of like Minnetonka.
Are there other brands locally that aren't dog related that you just like admire and think like, wow, that is a great invention and those people are hitting it on all cylinders?
I think more in terms of brand than product. So there's a few brands that Martin Patrick, which is a retailer, and we used to be in the same building as them, and so I was in there a lot, and they're doing something right.
Yes, they are. I'd like to podcast them. I should give them a shout.
Yeah, from every conversation I've had with everybody there, they seem really friendly.
Yep.
Askov Finlandson is interesting in that when I first went in there, it just was like, wow, this seems like an odd collection of things, and I feel like they really worked at it, and they've found
their
a
niche.
spot.
Yeah.
And it took them a while, and I mean, not really long, but I really appreciate the fact that to just see that evolution. I'm just like being all North Loopy right now. Red Wing Shoes.
Yeah.
We've actually done some work for them with the agency. I just have a lot of respect
Yeah.
for that brand.
And the family. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hear you on that one too.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a bunch I'll
there's
think
tons of
later.
others.
Yeah.
I have really enjoyed spending time with you today. Do you think we got your whole story? We didn't even get to the start of it.
Yeah, no, this is fine. Well, I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk
We
another
will.
time. Yeah.
We will.
No,
We've been
thanks.
talking with Ken Goldman. He is
thanks for having me.
Yeah, founder of Stunt Puppy. Do you have how many dogs do you have now? You have a 12-year-old golden.
Yeah, and I have a 2.5-year-old golden.
So
I think 2 is a good number.
2, yeah, I'd like to get another dog, but I think my dog, I'm worried she's too old to be. Did you find when you introduced another younger dog into the mix that was welcome?
Yeah, and it's a timing thing. I think, you can be too late to do that.
I think I kind of missed the window. I think Grandma wouldn't appreciate the newbie in the house. So thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Right on.